It's an early morning fishery. You get up early and head out on the lake so you can process your fish and get them to the market as early as you can in the day. So I've fished Lake Michigan ever since I was probably 10 years old. I remember going out with Dad and coming in sleeping in a fish box, so I was pretty small at the time. A lot of memories.
I mean, I can't remember a day that we didn't grow up with fishing. My father always told us about how rich we were because we always had fresh fish. I remember my mother saying that the fish used to be so plentiful that you could just walk on the fish across the water.
As my kids were growing up, you know, the first fish we caught out of our boat was a whitefish. And my daughter was about 5 at the time. And, you know, that was a very happy moment, you know, just see her, like, I got one.
So I grew up fishing with my dad. When I was a kid, we owned a 16-foot aluminum boat. And we would take it into seeded waters in the Bellwether. And that's how we spent a lot of our summers, you know, trolling, catching walleye, catching whatever we could, really, to feed ourselves. Fishing is interwoven into our culture. It's something that sustains us. It's how our people have fed each other for thousands of years. It's now how our people earn a living and put food on their table. So it's something that we're going to protect.
With the invasives that have taken over northern Lake Michigan, it really made it hard to be productive on the whitefish side of it. So we transitioned last year up to Whitefish Point in Lake Superior, and it seems to have worked out. We're being able to pay the bills and keep her going, and this is our second year up here, and it seems to be doing just fine. Anything that's under 17 inches we have to throw back, so all the smaller ones we'll throw back. They're just so pretty slow right now for what this was last time. Last time we had a few more, so you just never know. That's why they call it fishing and not catching. Usually we run 7 or 8 miles, 10 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, lift 3 or 4 nets, run back to the east, lift another couple nets. We set them in the spring. Of course, every blow you get, you got to maintain them. You know, you might have to pull one out and reset it periodically. So now we'll just reverse everything and set the pot back. It's a multi-generational fishery, so we've been around a long time. With Dad, I mean, it was one of them things you had to work. I mean, you had to work to put food on the table. You had to work to pay the bills. Growing up, a lot of times it was just me and him on the boat, and then my brother got old enough and it was all 3 of us. And then Dad passed away in 2013 and I took the operation over from him, and luckily at one time I had both my boys on here and my brother, so still a family business. That's what we're all about. You know, we're all Frasers on the boat. There's not too many boats out there that can say they got one full family on a boat. It's all worked out good for us, you know. It really has. A few nice sized fish. 99% of all the fish, I mean, whether I send it down to St. Agnes or use it out of my fish shed, mine goes primarily to restaurants and the general public. I mean, I got a little fish store there, so they'll stop in and get fresh whitefish or smoked whitefish.
The Sioux tribe has more commercial fishermen than any other tribe in the state of Michigan. If you are living in Michigan, visiting Michigan, you're at a restaurant, you order whitefish, chances are a Sioux tribe fisherman caught that fish.
Bawating, that was a place of the rapids. Bawating. Well, our people lived all along the rivers. There was a village a long time ago, right there where the locks were. But we were always here. Always, always here.
So us as Native people, we refer to this part of the river as Bawating, the place of the rapids, but those rapids are gone. Oral history tells us that previously, prior to those locks coming in, the whitefish were so plentiful, and that's simply not the case anymore. Colonization completely changed in the St. Mary's River. It restructured how the river flows. That and different problems, overfishing, invasive species such as zebra mussels.
With the shipping industry and other pathways, we now have about 188 non-local beings established in the Great Lakes. About a third of those are considered harmful to the ecosystem, other organisms, etc. You know, there's lots of examples. Sea lamprey were introduced in the 1800s. They're still out there. More recently, zebra and quagga mussels. So these animals are ecosystem engineers. They've taken nutrients from the water column of these lakes that supported our native fish and sequestered those in the bottom of the lake.
That's a working hypothesis, is that the invasive mussels have been the driving factor behind the decline of the whitefish. Early 2000s, with the proliferation of the invasive zebra and the quagga mussels, as they've taken over the Great Lakes, they've really competed with whitefish for food.
Our primary species has always been whitefish, and you know, whitefish have been decimated, and that has a lot to do with zebra and quagga mussels. Wiped out the food chain. The whitefish are all but gone in the lower lakes, mainly Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. There are pockets where guys could still get some fish, but the areas where I've historically fished are just wiped right out of whitefish.
The Sioux tribe prides itself on being good stewards to the environment. It's important to work for the fisheries and to protect the fisheries, to do proactive things to replenish them. So we're doing a lot of things to restore the fish population. We have a natural resource department that has quite a few biologists that work for us.
The Sioux Tribe Fisheries Program is part of a response and monitoring of aquatic invasive species. We're part of a collaborative effort in the St. Mary's River. The U.S. government, the Canadian government, tribal governments all working together trying to detect new invasives early. That's really important.
We have the assessment side of the program, which monitors fishery stocks. They survey commercial fishing vessels. They do independent surveys. And then on the enhancement side, we do a lot of hatchery work, a lot of stocking. Sioux Tribe has a walleye stocking program. About 5 years ago, we began a whitefish stocking program. It's really kind of at the experimental stage now. There was a lot to learn with whitefish. It's not a species that traditionally is raised in North America in hatcheries, and so there was a learning curve to it, and we're now in our 5th year, starting to get things figured out. And so we go out, we catch these wild fish, we strip the eggs, and then release the fish back into the wild. We go ahead and fertilize those eggs, bring them back into our hatchery, incubate them for about 5 months, and then they hatch out into small fry, and we raise them there for a couple of weeks until the ice comes off the pond. Ponds are used to raise a lot of other species across the United States, but never whitefish. We gave it a try about 4 years ago, and it seems to be showing some good results and great possibilities. What we do is we set fyke nets around the perimeter of the pond, set the net overnight, we come home the next morning, lift them, pull them out, put them into a truck, and then transport them to where we want to stock them. And so these fish that we're going to stock out, they're as close to naturally raised as possible. When they hit the Great Lakes, they've been having to work for their food their whole life, and so it sets them up for success once they do get into the waters. It's a long-term project. And I keep looking at other species that have been done in the Great Lakes, you know, that were 30 and 40-year projects, and I just have to remind myself that that's what we're looking at, you know. I may not be the one that sees the end of this, but somebody will. And, you know, hopefully we can make some breakthroughs and be able to make a contribution where there's whitefish out there for everybody to fish.
Now they're starting to do whitefish. You know, they've done the walleye and salmon, and I mean, every bit of it's going to help everybody. You know, it's not just the natives that's going to help, it's going to help the state in general. You know, any stocking that can be done by the tribe, it's a plus.
As Native people, we've lost a lot along the way. We've lost it through forced assimilation, through boarding schools, historical trauma, you know, so everything that we can maintain as a people for our culture is hugely important to us. This is a way of life for us. It's not just, you know, something that we do on Saturday and Sunday, cast a pole. You know, this is how we sustain our families. We have a biologist that works for us, and he estimates that every single year, the 1836 ceded territory provides 1 million meals to Sioux Tribe citizens. So it's something that's a part of our life. It's who we are as a people. And to this day, it continues to provide nourishment to our families. This is something that is a right to them. It's a right to tribal members. It's a right that was bought and paid for with the blood of our ancestors. The U.S. Constitution outlines that treaties are the supreme law of the land, and our members should be able to practice rights that were guaranteed to them in that treaty, which were in exchange for 14 million acres that were handed to the federal government that allowed Michigan to become a state the following year. What that treaty also did is it provided rights for us to hunt, fish, gather on that land to sustain our indigenous way of life. It's something that's enormously important to us as a tribe. If we can't protect our treaties, what can we protect?
Well, we grew up always, you take what you need and leave the rest. You don't take any more. We always have to think of the next 7 generations. By restocking fish, we're doing that.
If we're always looking out for the next 7 generations, then we're always taking care of our people, right? If we're doing what's right, not just for us, but like for everybody. So if you keep that in your mindset, you know, and you put those principles into your work, it makes sense that like, okay, I'm not gonna see things overnight, but you know, generations from now, you know, people might be catching offsprings of these fish because of the work we did now.
It's important not only to honor our ancestors and our current fishermen, but also to honor our descendants. They're taking part in a way of life that was handed down to us by our ancestors, and there's a lot of nobility in that. We believe in the 7 generations, and what that means is that we have our way of life due to the previous people, our ancestors, and we owe it to the next 7 generations to give them what we have. And not only to give them what we have, but to make it better.